contract too, when we looked at the numbers that came in and fine-tuned some things and sent the committee back to ask questions and things like that. So I just think it's important to keep that in mind. I think the other thing, as we perfect our process, the other thing I think about in the case of Barrier Island in particular is they're about the only game in town. They probably are the only game in town. And I don't want to put them in an unfair negotiation position, which we discussed last week as well. But they're a small business, they're a local business, they're entitled to make a profit. They haven't raised their rates in years, so the numbers I saw, which probably aren't the current ones, seem pretty reasonable considering it's been, what, 3 years since there's been, you look at cost of living and inflation and other kinds of indices. And I didn't do the math, but I've got a rough idea of what that is. I appreciate that you've asked them to do what you've recently asked them to do. I don't know if we want to hear from them or if that is more for behind the closed door in the negotiation. But
yeah, let me just kind of stop right here, pause for a second. One, we don't want to negotiate in public.
Yeah.
That's the purview of the mayor and his administrative role, and so we have to respect that.
I do too.
Number two is, I think you started this in October, the initial, so no, I'm not suggesting anybody's fault, but it's been going on 3 months now for these negotiations. So we could have driven it probably harder, they could have driven it probably harder, but where we are today is we don't have a meeting of minds of what they're going to do. So what we have to do is come up with an approach to get us to, ultimately, to a contract. What are we going to do in the meantime?
I thought we
all want a contract that's acceptable.
I thought we discussed what they were going to do was the baseline was what they're doing now last week.
They haven't accepted, there's some issues in there they haven't accepted. So the contract we have.
But that's terms and conditions, it's not requirement.
That's still important in contract language.
I understand that. I'm just trying to understand scope versus T's and C's.
So we don't have a meeting of the minds, and so we have to determine how we want to proceed, whether it's between now and Friday, now and 2 weeks from Friday, now and a month from Friday. But we don't have something we can act on today.
And I don't have any real sense, and we can certainly ask the Barrier Island Ocean Rescue representatives.
I'll defer to you on whether we do
whether or not, Mr. Chairman, but I don't have a sense other than the fact that the lawyers had to review and we haven't received anything back formally. What I want to be careful, but there was a number provided by Barrier Island Ocean Rescue. I said, put in the number, whatever you want, and there was a number, and it represented a significant increase for same level of service over the status quo, and then it was entirely within the ambit of council to consider whether or not that was the appropriate increase given all these other factors. My own view was it was certainly within a range of reasonability. Okay. And so, but others could make their own judgments about that.
It's unfortunate, like we're all saying that we're at this juncture. Yeah. You know, woulda, coulda, shoulda. I don't know, all the way around. But and I understand the lawyer thing because we discuss lawyers as well.
No, I do. And I don't want to belabor this, but the part of a little bit of frustration that we are where we are is it didn't need to get to this point because, again, we started this with intentionality of meeting the first week in October.
Yeah.
The next meeting, at least with me, did not incur until 3 months later. And then we were a little bit started being behind the 8 ball at that point in time.
Okay, thank you.
So, do we have a motion?
I'm not sure what we would be. The only thing we can do is make a recommendation to council. I think we'll have to discuss with town attorney. There's nothing on the agenda that we would have to, if we want to take up, you know, a motion at the subsequent council meeting. This is on the agenda for this meeting, so a motion would certainly be in order here. I think we just need to amend the agenda to take up whatever might come out of the recommendation of this committee by a 2/3 vote of council.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. Yeah. We could added to town council with a 2/3 vote.
Yeah.
I thought that's the way it
I
was.
think that's right.
No, it's not the way
I
it was?
think-
No, it is.
Oh,
That's just
okay.
my question, though. Based on Chairman comment, is it that you guys want to take action or you just want to table this? Because you could just table this.
I've got a question. We don't need to take any action to authorize the CCSO option. That's
No.
already in place and authorized?
Yeah.
Okay, and there's funding.
And we can not have a motion today, or we can have a motion on this to table it. And in either case, the mayor will continue to negotiate as expeditiously as possible to get something to come back to
But
us.
by the way, there's always the possibility that we could, reach an agreement on all terms this week, and in which case, call a special call meeting.
That was gonna be my next question. Okay.
I'm happy to have a call meeting next week.
Council would have to do the same then, right?
Yeah.
So kind of,
Well,
No,
don't have
I don't think the Ways and Means Committee under our ordinance,
was gonna
it
be my
just has
question.
oversight. It doesn't actually have to, it's only
We can fast
council.
pass.
It's the only council that actually approves contracts.
that's good to know. Okay, thanks.
so if there's no motion, that's fine, or there's a
Well,
motion to
I
table?
mean, we do have a new business matter. You haven't actually asked for a motion yet, but
Actually, I did, but
I would simply move we table the new business matter on the agenda.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
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 Okay, that's tabled, and you'll act expeditiously to negotiate in good faith. Okay. Chairman's report, I have nothing for this meeting.
So, I have a 6 months budget report for you to report. And as of December 31st, our reserves were at 50.4 million. And we talked in detail last week at strategic meeting. So this is just a reminder that about 28.6 million of this is unrestricted funds. And capital and emergency reserves are at 11.1, and restricted are at 10.7 million.
I'm sorry, what was the last one, Dorado?
10.7, and that's restricted, all combined. So for the first 6 months, our consolidated revenues were 8.4 million, which is an increase of 175,000 compared to last year through the same 6 months. And it represents about 48% of our total budgeted revenues. All revenues are performing in line with expectations, and probably will overperform the budgeted amounts. And we talked about this a little in detail at the budget, mid-year budget review last month. And at 50% of the fiscal year lapsed, our total expenditures were at 6 million, which is about 417,000 more than last year for the first 6 months. And the total represents about 40% of the current year budget. And overall, they all in line with the budget or will end up with a little less than budgeted. There is really nothing significant. Everything is in line, so nothing significant to report. Any questions? And one other thing I want to mention that we'll have at the town council, we're going to have the presentation on the reserve study that was just performed. So I hope you had a chance to look at the report and ask questions. We'll have our engineer from Reserve Advisors to present it. He'll be on Zoom though, but you'll have an opportunity to ask additional questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Any citizen comments? Member comments? Oh, sorry, we're back to citizen comments, sorry. Morning, Rob.
I appreciate your time and consideration. Just want to put it on the record to set everything straight that we were asked for a price for the existing service and the existing terms on a template that was combined for the contract. We provided that number, and then subsequently were given 3 additional versions of that contract with changes. And now we do have to get our attorney to review it, and that's why. We've been using the same contract language and template for 20 years, and I mean, we've had our attorney review it once. And so we aren't a big company, we don't have legal counsel in-house, so it's gonna take some time. And I appreciate your patience.
Yeah, I understand. And just understand from our standpoint, we've been operating for years with contractor contracts, and we made a specific decision last year to have our own version rather than, because the contractor contracts are all over the map. Everybody has different components to it, and it's not standardized. There are things that are missing from our standpoint. It doesn't give us any protection. So we're moving to have a contract, standardized contract with appendix that give us the protections we need. And so please understand going forward, everybody, so we're not just picking on you guys, it's all of our contracts will ultimately be on our standard forms.
Understood. And it's hard for us to get to the understanding of a standard form when there were 4 versions that we were presented, and it didn't seem like a standard at all. And so that has undermined our confidence in the good faith of the town, and we are having to do our due diligence with our legal advisor to make sure that we're being smart moving forward.
Well, please understand, we want to negotiate in good faith. We just need to do it to protect ourselves as well. We understand you need to protect yourself, so please take the time with your lawyers and get what you need from it, and hopefully you'll understand where we're coming from as well.
And lastly, the contract, if it's standard language, it's been going on for a year is what y'all are saying. We didn't get that standard language until version 4 on Thursday. So we've been trying to get our attorney to review it and get back to us, and we will let you know as soon as
But
that
Rob,
happens.
in all fairness, that's because we simply did not have anything close to an agreement on the basic terms and scope of service until this past week to be able to present a contract. Again, where we left it, I don't want to kind of belabor this, but we met in the first week in October, as you may recall, and discussed kind of what the scope, particularly focused on the scope of services related to the evening code enforcement contract. And I indicated at that time, I hope that we could resolve those issues as quickly as possible. And I think in Saza's email specifically noted what we wanted to all avoid was getting to January.
Correct.
Without resolution of these issues. I did not hear back from you guys for 2.5 months until the middle of December, probably latter part of December, and weren't able, because of the holidays, to actually, I responded, but didn't schedule a meeting until early January. So we were in early January, and when we had that meeting, all that was presented was what you guys were suggesting, not what I had requested. And so we had to continue to work through, and we've been trying diligently to do that over the course of the last 3 weeks now to try to resolve those issues. And we had a lengthy conversation about those in the strategic planning meeting. So, I mean, yes, all of this takes time, but we didn't even get to the point of having contract language. We were still focused on the high-level terms at that point in time. But as the chairman noted, all town contracts are now migrated to a standard form template, and it's got nothing to do with you guys, as he noted. What I can say is that there were infirmities with respect to a lot of long-standing pre-existing contracts, and it is what it is. We're operating under one contract right now that's absolutely just hamstrung the town because it was just a bad contract. It was a vendor contract. Not saying that's what this involves this at all, but that's the reason we went down the path of standardizing form of municipal contract, just like the government has, the federal government has, for example. The state has that in procurement as well. We just never had that because we were kind of a small town, but we're growing up, and so we're trying to get kind of in the right place with all of these things.
And again, I understand why we're doing that. I support it. I mean, I'm in total agreement like we've discussed. I do think that there are some learning points as we go through this, and as the chairman pointed out, it's the Ts and Cs that are holding us up now. And we've not done business that way historically, so that may be new. And I see that through the lens of having worked for a commercial company, trying to do work with the federal government and trying to figure out how to make that work. It's maybe not trivial for some companies, especially when things have been more handshaky. That's not the right word, but you know what I mean, the sentiment. And formalizing and putting structure behind stuff, I think probably is new. And so maybe we do need to present that in the initial RFP stage or whatever, so people are aware of our Ts and Cs.
Well,
So-
actually, we do that in RFPs, and that raises another interesting, you talk about the informality and the fact that we're doing things kind of in a handshake. We have not, even though our procurement policy generally requires competitive bidding, there is the ability, we haven't explicitly made that decision to sole source in this case, in part because of the long-standing relationship and because we are a small community and there are a limited number of service providers. So yes, we're trying to accommodate all of that.
And let me just say for the record, this, hopefully, whatever I've said doesn't appear to be adversarial. This is just, we've made a change, and the delay has happened, and I'm not blaming anybody for the delay. It's just, it is what it is. I think you hopefully realize we all want you guys to have the contract. We just got to get get them things in motion so we get to the point where we agree on both the language, the cost, the scope of services. And we're just not there today, and we want to be there, so as quickly as, and we have some culpability too, so as quickly as both of us could get together, that's awesome.
And we had hoped to be as of today, and that had been kind of the expectation. Certainly understand what you've just said about having to have council review the standard form of municipal contract. Completely get that, and that's why, we can work this up as quickly as we hear back. And if we need to call a special call meeting, I'm certainly more than happy to do that.
And it made me think that, again, I support the business practice that we're putting in place. I think it's important we have empathy with a small business who potentially on Friday has a major carrying cost that's not getting covered. So, we do need to be sensitive to that, I think.
I would just like to make one point of clarification if I could. The contract that's lapsing on the 6th is actually for beach patrol, not for code enforcement. Your discussion about CCSO working the late night hours, just make sure everybody was aware of that.
Oh, does that
That's a good
change
point.
things?
Thank you, that's a good point.
Thanks.
Probably less important.
Yeah, that lowers the
I don't know, I
temperature.
think maybe it's more.
Well, the beach patrol contract only goes through this time of year, 7 o'clock or 5 o'clock.
The amount of citizen contact I've had in the last month has been more about beach and dogs and things like that than code. I've actually been invited over to houses to talk about it.
I pulled up the January code enforcement just to try to understand what's going on this year, and I'm happy to share that with you.
So that would mean the biggest thing that, all right, so if the beach item, let me back up. Who will do the leash law enforcement?
We have code enforcement staff on the day as
I
well.
thought the beach patrol did that.
We have code enforcement staff that does municipal code enforcement during the day. That's supplemented or complemented by beach patrol, which tends to do that on the beach. We could certainly redirect our code enforcement services staff to focus on the beach, for example.
Right, because I remember seeing charts from Barrier Island that shows by far, the greatest amount of infractions are dog leash. So to me,
Actually, in 2025, the largest single number was beach chairs at some single rental properties. But
Okay,
the
so
second
we
to
can
that
go-
was,
all right,
second to that was
all right, so
leash
I
and
remember just the
flashlights.
opposite,
Yeah.
but that's fine. So the point is that if they're the main enforcer of that, that does light up on the island every so often. We, the town, need a plan to pick up the baton if that contract is expiring.
That's my thinking too. And my perspective is low numbers are good, but it doesn't mean we do away with it. I mean, my last assignment was at the National Guard, and if you never deploy the National Guard, that's a good thing, but you don't want to get rid of it.
I think everybody is in
I just wandered somewhere. I didn't
vigorous,
mean to do that.
vigorous agreement that we would like to come to resolution of an agreement as timely a fashion as possible.
I wasn't even thinking about that. Thanks.
Any other citizen comments? Member comments? Okay, with that, we're adjourned.
Okay.